How to get signed to a record label. So right off the bat, I have not been signed to a record label myself. So I'm not coming from the perspective of having been signed to a record label and going through that whole experience. I'm coming from the perspective of I've had conversations with record labels and major record labels, and I've also spent time working in M&A, which is merger and acquisitions for technology. So obviously very different on the technology side, but when you are buying a company and when you are acquiring someone, you are looking more or less for the same thing. You're looking for potential return on investment or potential future profit. And this is what major labels are looking for. So let's break down how we think about that into about 4 main categories here. We want to talk about the goal, like do you need a record label and why do you want one? Okay, so let's look at that. And then the second thing is focus. And then we look at what do you need when you're actually going and looking at these record labels and what your focus is. And then the last thing we'll look at how do you actually get that done when you have all those other previous requirements in place. I'm Charles Klain. I'm an indie musician now, singer, songwriter, and producer. So if you're making music, producing music, you're a singer, songwriter, and you're trying to get this music heard, then please feel free to subscribe, because this is exactly what this channel is about. This is exactly what I'm doing. I'm just sharing my experiences to help you along the way. Number 1, what is the goal of a major record label? The goals of labels are to take artists, take art, music, and find a return on that, to make money from that. No one really likes to touch on it, but at the end of the day, it comes down to money and how much profit could you potentially be of value to a label. Now you have to ask yourself, do you need a label to get that goal? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. For example, if you want to play stadium shows and your goal is to be known around the world, a label can help you get there. If your show is just to be recognized in your country, to make music for a living, to make great songs, to build relationships with other artists and people, you don't need a label for that. So we're going to continue on with this video as saying, yes, you want a major record label deal or an independent label deal. Essentially, they are the same thing. The major record label deals are just bigger. There's more people, there's more money, there's more support. The indie label is at its brass tacks the same thing, it's just less. Sometimes there's only one person, maybe 10 people, smaller network, smaller community. And with that, there are some really positive benefits too, because you can build more of a relationship with that team versus Universal, for example. That's a good segue into focus, which is the next step. If you want a label, who should the labels be? Where are they and who are they? Is it Universal, Warner, or Sony? No problem if you want to go after that, but you need to have that focus. And if it is those 3, which one and why? Narrow in on one and try to really look at all 3 labels, what they offer and what one is right for you and which one is going to help you get your goals. The other side is, okay, what are the indie labels? What's your genre? Are you an electronic music producer? Are you a singer-songwriter? Are you a folk artist? Are you a hip hop artist? Where are you from? There's labels in your city. You can also be looking at independent labels within your city, independent labels within other cities, but very niche genre like yourself. Maybe you're making dark folk music. Find an indie label that has dark folk music. They can likely get you to your goals faster than a larger label can, because they have those smaller relationships that you can build a lot faster. So the key for number 2 is focus in on what label you want to go after and make a list of them and narrow down that list so we can take the next 2 steps and really dive in on those labels. Number 3, what do you need to have that these labels are looking for so that it's attractive enough for you to even have a conversation with them? So this is where I was talking about the money thing. You need to have something that can predict future revenue or future profit from your work. It doesn't necessarily have to be your music. It can be your brand. It can be the story you're telling, but it needs to be something that you're doing. Can it predict future return on investment? If so, that's an interesting conversation for a label to have, because they're going to want to have a piece of that. A lot of people talk about you need to have a massive brand and it needs to be like super sexy and awesome and everything. It doesn't actually. It helps to have that stuff, but for example, one thing could be you just have the best singing voice. You are like a Lady Gaga type singer, and there's a uniqueness to your voice and an authenticity that isn't out there. That alone can be your piece to your future return on investment for the label. It's much harder because there are a lot of great singers out there, but maybe you have something authentic that isn't out there. That could be your piece of future return on investment. You need to build momentum, you need to build buzz and audience, all these things, right, that can help predict future revenue. So it really helps if you can sell out a show, if you have people talking about you online or people talk about you after your show, if you are on Spotify playlists, if you have 20,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, you have started to develop as an independent artist. You can kind of see that you're doing it more or less already on your own. Maybe you have a small team even of people, your friends, or maybe a manager or someone else that can help you. You're working with other stakeholders like radio promoters and Spotify playlist promoters and people to help you build your own business. Essentially, you're doing it yourself as an independent musician, but the record label can just say, I want to take this and just put a bunch of gasoline on it and then let that take over. So here's a couple tactical things, because that was very high level theoretical stuff. So tactically, try to find channels that can help you grow your organic reach using channels like Instagram Reels, TikTok, YouTube, and growing your net of people who haven't heard of you before, so you can get more people. Well, you can grow your audience essentially through those organic reach channels. Don't spend your time just doing Instagram posts and Instagram stories. You're going to need to find the channels that can help you grow your reach. Play shows and write great songs. It will also come down to your product. If your product is your music, it needs to be really high quality. If you're a bad songwriter, work with better songwriters. If you have bad productions, find really solid producers. If you play with a band, find great bandmates. Then develop a live performance that is stellar and you are comfortable with the audience. You have great songs. Get a set list of 10 to 15 songs that you know in and out. It's an engaging show, because live shows are the moneymaker for labels. They can put you on a tour and sell hard tickets that make a big return on their investment. So if you don't have a live show, it's going to be not super attractive for an artist or a label to sign you, because unless you have another revenue stream, a popular revenue stream, maybe you're making a lot of money with merchandise or something else where you have an online brand where you have a different revenue stream. But traditionally, live shows are your bread and butter revenue stream for musicians. So if you don't have a good live show, that means you don't have that revenue stream. So develop a really, really stellar live show and try to sell out shows. Obviously, that's way easier to say than actually do that. But one thing I do as a musician is I focus on definitely selling out locally. So every venue that I play within my state or province in Canada, I try to make sure that all those shows are sold out. And then if I'm touring in Europe, it's less likely that you'll sell out, but you can still really try to create buzz. But it's not going to look that bad if you don't sell out when you're playing outside of your territory. If you don't sell out a show in your main local hometown, it's not a great sign. So one way you could do this is just find a venue that's not that big, and you can get a venue of 50 people and you can sell that out. 50 people, at least for one event, you can sell that out. Try to be constantly developing your sound and using these as tools to continue conversations with labels, trying to level up on every song, because they can use someone looking at you from an A&R perspective will look at your songs and see, is there a development? If you've released 10 songs and the first one was okay, but the 10th one is awesome, then they can say, well, I wonder what 11 or 12 or 13 will look like, because they can see that natural development. If you only have 2 songs out there, there's no linear development that they can see. So always frequently release songs, but always make sure you're leveling up on each song. And that's really important, that the songs are getting better every time. Okay, so that's what we need. The next step is, how do we actually do it? At the core, we need to get the attention of one A&R person or someone else at the label that can have that conversation with us. We just need to get an email. We need to get them out on the phone somehow. Okay, so how do you do that? All this information is available online of where people work, what they do, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. These people are not hiding. These people, A&R reps especially, have their titles on Twitter bios and have their titles on LinkedIn. So do LinkedIn searches, do Instagram, Twitter searches, and you can reach out to these people this way. However, if you go this approach, you'll likely not get a response because they're inundated with requests. You can go that route and do the follow-up, maybe week-to-week follow-up, and get creative with your responses in some way to try to get that conversion on a response. I've done that and it has worked. If you get creative on your pitches, don't do your standard pitch if you're going this way. Make sure you get creative, make it unique and fresh. Talk about them more than you talk about yourself in those pitches. That's a really important lesson. The other way you can approach this is by getting an intro from someone. So scour your connections and networks. Maybe you know someone who knows someone in the record label industry. Again, really hard, and maybe you just don't know anyone in the industry. Okay, so what is another way you can do this? You try to subliminally get the attention of someone you're trying to reach out to by looking at who they follow or who they're connected with. So maybe you look at their LinkedIn connections, or you look at the people they follow on Instagram or the people they follow on Twitter. Look at the people they follow. Is there a consistent type of profile that's the same? Or maybe you know someone that you didn't, and you can reach out to that person and get some intel on the person you're trying to reach out to. Or you can ask, maybe you're looking to get to an A&R representative and they follow this person named Robert. Well, you go to Robert and you say, hey, Robert, I was wondering if we could get connected and if you would be interested in sharing my new song. I noticed this person follows you and I would love to get their attention. I'm very passionate to start a conversation with a label. You can be honest and transparent about this. He or she might be subliminally just be like, wow, all these people are sharing this music. I should go check it out. At this point, your song has to be good because they can just turn off the conversation right there if your song's not good. So all that work you've done is a waste of time because your song's not that good. So make sure the quality of your song is ready for that pitch. If you're an indie musician right now looking to get signed, or maybe you're making music, you want to get that music heard, then please feel free to subscribe and we can kind of go on this indie music career together. And I hope to see you in the next video.